Hello, Culture Matters podcast. We're back again. Before I introduce our topic, here's a quote just for this episode. Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. John Dewey. Culture Matters. In the back of 30 Days of Thought, our first book, published in 2019, which its purpose is around education, self education, self development, self reflection, the curation of one's character, which has a relationship with one's culture, whether that be business or community, familial, country. The purpose of 30 Days of Thought is self development, is education. Today, I want to talk about in the back of the book, one of the values of Culture Matters, the U in culture. The U in culture stands for unique. Education is finding the answer within. So the U in culture, as far as culture matters, stands for the word unique, which means education is finding the answer within. What did what may John Dewey have meant by education is not preparation for life? Education is life itself. Well, first, let's look at the definition of education. Noun, the process of receiving or giving systematic instruction, especially at a school or university. The theory and practice of teaching a body of knowledge acquired while being educated. If we're think about what is school? School is a medium by which this process of life itself, of navigating what we know we don't know, what we don't know we don't know, what we don't know that's what what we don't know that can be navigated or grasped at some point by us, what we don't know that's unknowable. Life Education is not a preparation, it is life itself, according to Dewey. But why is that so? And what is education in the sense of the formal structures? What do these institutions actually do for us as individuals? They, in their ideal form, prepare us to navigate life itself, to navigate the unknowns of life, the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns, and help us take information what we what we don't know until we know that what we don't know to what we know, and self audit and group audit the the actual quality or capacity or truth of what we actually know that we think we know. Because we can think we know something and not know it was damn well as much as we think we know it. So, I know that. Do you really know that? Do you really understand that? Education is is and it's interesting enough in Peterson's work, he talks about explored territory and unexplored territory, and the individual being the intermediary or the mediating force between what is explored and what is unexplored, and how important it is for us as individuals to voluntarily take on the unknown, to voluntarily lean into what's uncomfortable or lean into discomfort, and to and that and the more clear we are on our aim, what we want, and what plan or plans are behind that, and the quality of our relationships as we navigate the unknown through our vision, what we choose not to do, impacting what we can do, influencing who we can be and how we show up. And we are the intermediate or the mediator between what is known and what is unknown, what is explored and what is unexplored, and breaking it down and maps of meaning on a neurological level, in a psychological explanation, using myth and philosophy to express this idea that it's built in our physiology, our biology, our anatomy, our brain chemistry at the deepest levels to be anxious in the face of the unknown, yet have a capacity for hope and inspiration based on how we navigate what is known and what is unknown. And there's power in the ability to respond to the unknown and to voluntarily take on suffering or to embrace suffering, to go into the lair where the dragon is and fight the dragon to get the treasure to bring it back home. Education is all of that takes education. All of that is an education. But what is education? The unique education is finding the answer within. I wrote down self-awareness because and self-responsibility, right? In a Petersonian sense, taking on taking on commitments, sacrificing what we want now for what we need to learn to actually show up to that fight with the dragon and be able to win, be able to slay the dragon, not show up to the fight unprepared. We haven't done the work before the fight, but we're we're willing to show up for the fight unprepared. Well, we're going to lose because what we're doing is we're doing it in education is multifaceted, four prongs: individual, institution, nature, and nurture. On an individual basis, right? Unique. Education is finding the answer within. There's a answer within us that's tied to our destiny, that's tied to our authenticity, which is the actuality of our potential. Part of life's meaningful process is discovering our potential. That comes from education. On the institutional level, if we're participating in the institution openly with through our agency, the topics, the subjects, the the possible the possible verticals of our learning will call to us. They will speak to us. The things that we find interesting, the things that we lose a sense of time when we study them and we pursue understanding. Institutions, on an institutional level, when we're engaged, when we're all in, when we're pursuing our curiosities and exploring the possibilities of the world, that the possibilities of our life, of who we could be in the future. Oh, I would like to be a lawyer. I would like to be an accountant. I would like to be a doctor. I would like to be a business person. I would like to be this future. I would like to be this idealistic avatar of my future self. Well, I go through the institution and I thought I was going to become a doctor. But after going through the educational process, after studying and reading the literature and being mentored by various mentors and teachers, I realized that's not what my calling is. That doesn't call to me. It's this over here that does. It's this over here that fits like a glove. perfectly over my individuality. So there's an individual aspect to education. There's discovering our calling, which institutions can fast track. And the purpose of fast tracking that, there's a natural dynamic here. Nature will force us to be educated through hardship, through suffering, through experience, through the nakedness of the world, through the navigation of the desert of life. We are held to account by so much that is out of our control as it relates to nature. Nature holds us accountable to become educated, to learn the skills, the trades necessary to survive. However, there's another layer to that, and that's the individual aspect, that subjective calling, that education, the pursuit of education. This is why in Culture Matters, the unique is education is finding the answer within, the answer of one's calling, the answer of one's life, the topic or the question to pursue, to study, to attempt to figure out, to go all in on. That is a part of discovering the meaning of one's life, to actually unearthing and unpacking the genius of one's life, the genie in us, the purpose, the ambition, the drive, the calling, the destiny. Institutions can fast track this. Nature will force us to survive, but education in the spirit of the pursuit of our purpose, the pursuit of what calls to us, what speaks to us, that we can learn and study and sacrifice time today for future time in the for time future, in the future, where we can actually use the things we've come to know and come to learn to help other people, that simultaneously helps us be fulfilled, us have a more meaningful life. That is what education is about. Education is a process that mirrors the process of life, existence itself, life's uh, pursuits or goals, life's obstacles, life's failures, life's tragedies, life's lessons, life's mentors and mentees, heroes and adversaries, life's inevitable end. Education is life itself. As Dewey said, education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. And it's the the it is the institutions that get the credit for, or the surface level acknowledgement of what education is and what education is about. But those institutions, those mediums, they serve a role, or they're an aspect of education. They're a physical symbols of education, of life, of the pursuit of learning, of the pursuit of understanding, of the pursuit of honing skills and awarenesses and understandings, so that one can be as useful as possible to others, and truly useful to oneself, in the sense that one discovers their authenticity, their purpose, their calling, their destiny. Education is about destiny. So finding the answer within is uncovering one's destiny. So we're talking about individual self-destiny, institutional, a fast track to being called to being pulled towards that thing that one is going to dedicate their life to go all in on, to be useful to others and grow through through that process of being useful to others, to develop themselves. Nature, we become educated to survive. That forces us. It forces us to the process of thriving through firstly surviving, getting those basic essential needs. If we don't figure out how to live, we will not live, and we will not live for long. And that fourth piece is nurture, to actually pass down the torch, to have a family, to be a part of a community, to be the mentor where the master where one was once the apprentice, to be the mentor, where one was once the mentee. There's that passing of the torch. There's that sharing of the wisdom. And that wisdom has come from the experience and the education of having lived a life. Education is not simply relegated or conceptualized just on the institutional level. It's the institutional, it is our institutions that represent the concept of being a human being, being and becoming, being uh, a part of an ever changing and ever evolving world where we have to constantly transform it and ourselves through that process of mediation. It is about asking questions of oneself, asking questions of others, and pursuing information so one can better be in formation to one's aims, to one's goals. So authenticity can be not just held in tow, but pursued at the highest level. Education is finding the answer within by participating in that mediating process of learning and unlearning. Here's another quote. In the first place, in the first place, God made idiots. That was for practice. Then he made school boards. Mark Twain, lighthearted. Another quote, give a man a fish and you will feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you will feed him for a lifetime. Maimonides. Benjamin Franklin said, an investment in knowledge pays the best interest, end quote. Theodore Roosevelt, to educate a man in mind and not in morals is to educate a menace to society. On the moral piece, the actual process of participating in education is, because it's caught, not taught. That is what develops character. It's not just the knowledge, oh, I know this, but it's, can I put it to practice, and am I am I trustworthy? Am I integrated? Education is part of becoming an integrated person at every level of abstraction: individual, family, communal, career, culture, etc. Country, culture, society, etc. Nelson Mandela said education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Aristotle said the roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet. Bitter in the sense that it's an unbecoming. It's learning not what to think, but how to think. And the how to think is the character piece, and the what to think is the information piece. And it's that constant friction between the two that is a component of life itself. Diogenes said the foundation of every state is the education of its youth. Does the youth understand the past? Does the youth have purpose from that path? Can the youth, in a mature sense, navigate the unknowns of the future by staying true to the values that the culture needs to maintain order in the face of chaos? Abraham Lincoln said the philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation will be the philosophy of government in the next. How we govern our society is a consequence of what we understand of the past, where we've come from, what we understand of the world in its present form, and how we can mediate ourselves between the past and in the present towards the future with those that have differing points of view, perspectives, experiences. Education is finding the answer within, means participating in that process of mediation, collaborating in a world of competition and cooperation, and discovering one's destiny in the process. Anthony J. D'Angelo said, develop a passion for learning. If you do, you will never cease to grow. Martin Luther King said, the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character. That is the goal of a true education. Well, what about on an individual level? Think about that from a cultural level. The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. Imagine a society of intelligent and high character people Those are people that can navigate through the conflicts of that will naturally arise as a consequence of nature being held to account by so many things out of our control, but we're responsible to communicate and to labor and to work through the problems of the world together so that we can survive, so that we can thrive. But so easily can civilization break down. And we just like if we look at civilization as a company, if the company starts competing internally in an unhealthy, deconstructive manner, it will not be able to survive in the competition of the marketplace. Well, it's a civilization where the employees, the different peoples of the different nations cannot cooperatively compete with one another for the betterment of the overall species, that civilization will break down. And education, the process of human development, individual development, cultural transformation is what continues to renew the species as our civilizations navigate the unknowns of whatever epoch that we're born into. Education is about self-awareness, self-responsibility, asking questions of oneself, asking questions of others, and pursuing one's authenticity in the face of the unknown on an individual, institutional, natural, and person to person, right? Nurture cultural lens. Education, culture matters, unique, finding the answer within. What is your answer within? What calls to you? What are you attempting to master? Who are you attempting to become? How are you giving back to society, not after, but through the process of your development? What are you doing to achieve your goals that simultaneously helps and elevates others? Well, that's how you show up to your job. That's how you show up to work. That's how you show up to your institutional education. That's how you show up to your problems every single day. How you show up is what's representing the values of the culture, representing your values, representing your character, and influencing people to choose the right choice, the choice that we all would say, all right, that's the right way to do it. You know, that's something that inspires me. That doesn't lead to cynicism and nihilism. That leads to inspiration and purpose. Education is finding the answer within. That's the you in Culture Matters. What is your answer within? And are you on a path to education? Because it's not just a preparation for life, it is life itself, as Dewey said. Please share this with a friend. Leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast. We will see you next time.